Good afternoon, my name is Rodrigo Sangüesa.
And my name is Antonia Sepulveda.
In this video, we are going to analyze two texts.
A description about gorillas and the classical story of the three little pigs.
We are going to explain the genre, function, scaffolding, grammatical features, recurrence rules, progression patterns, and connectivity rules of each one of these texts.
The first text we are going to analyze is Facts About Gorillas, found on the official website of WWF. The genre of this text is descriptive, and its main function is telling the reader what someone or something is like.
When it comes to the scaffolding, the first thing we notice is that it contains a general opening statement introducing the subject of the description. In this case, gorillas are described both physically and behaviorally. Furthermore, they're compared to humans. The general opening statement is generally followed by a series of paragraphs about the subject. Although this text only has 2 paragraphs, the first one can be divided into 6 parts that deal with different topics. Therefore, structurally, it's no different from a text that contains a series of paragraphs. The first part refers to the evolutionary relationship between gorillas and humans. The second part makes a physical description of this primate. The third part refers to the 2 gorilla species and their habitat. The fourth part deals with their social structure. The fifth part has to do with their reproductive behavior. And the last part warns us about the endangerment that gorillas face.
Finally, we have a concluding paragraph in which the WWF explains the conservation efforts that they have taken in order to protect the gorilla. This signals the end of the text. Regarding their grammatical features, descriptive text make use of present tenses such as present simple, present continuous, and present perfect. In this text, we have highlighted in green the verbs in present simple, in blue the use of present perfect, and in yellow the use of present continuous.
One of the main grammatical features of descriptive texts is the use of linking verbs to establish relational processes. The most common linking verb is the verb to be. For example, throughout the text, the expression gorillas are is frequently used.
Another relevant grammatical feature related to the previous one is the use of adjectives, linking verbs to connect a subject to an adjective. In this text, gorillas are described as gentle, human-like, and stocky. The text also uses superlative adjectives such as the expression the largest of the great apes.
Descriptive texts are also characterized by noun complementation, such as the use of relative clauses. For example, the clause a dominant adult male or silverback who holds his position for years. This relative clause is introduced by the relative pronoun who and anteceded by a personified animal, a dominant adult male.
Now let's talk about recurrences rules. First, we have repetition. Since gorillas are the topic, the name of this species is repeated several times throughout the text as the subject of different sentences.
Then we can find cases of anaphoric procedures, such as pronominalization and determination. Let's start with an example of the former. Gorillas share 98.3% of their genetic code with humans, making them our closest cousins after chimpanzees and bonobos. Since the object pronoun them is used to refer to a lexical unit that was introduced earlier, this is an anaphoric reference.
Now let's go with an example of determination. The 2 gorilla species live in equatorial Africa, separated by about 560 miles of Congo Basin forest. This sentence first mentions equatorial Africa, which is a general geographical area, but later refers to the most specific place, Congo Basin forest.
The fourth recurrence rule that can be identified in this text is lesion. For example, females become sexually mature around 7 or 8 years old, but don't begin to breed until a couple of years later. In the second part of the sentence, after the coordinating conjunction but, the subject is omitted. In this text, we can identify 2 types of progression patterns. The first 3 sentences display a constant thematic progression. All of them deal with the same topic or theme, gorillas. However, as we can observe in this table, each sentence provides new information about the subject, and each piece of new information is what we know as reams.
The second class of progression patterns that we found in this text is thematic progression, with a derived theme. In this excerpt from the text, we can see that the theme of the first sentence is gorillas, just like in the example shown previously. However, the rhyme of this sentence introduces the subject of gorillas family groups. The following sentence have themes that are derived from this topic. The second sentence is about the bond between the dominant male and his females. The theme of the third sentence is females, and the theme of the fourth sentence is males.
When it comes to connectivity rules, we have to distinguish between implicit and explicit connections. Two sentences are implicitly connected when there's no coordinator or subordinator between them, but they're still logically connected with one another because their referents are related. For example, in the concluding paragraph, the theme of the first sentence is conservation efforts, whereas the second sentence is about protected areas. Although the two sentences are separated by a period and there's no connector between them, they're still implicitly connected because the reference, conservation efforts, and protected areas are related.
Regarding explicit connections, this text includes both coordinators and subordinators. The former is used to connect two independent clauses in a compound sentence, whereas the latter is used to complex sentence. Let's take a look at the following example. Gorillas live in family group of usually 5 to 10, but sometimes 2 to more than 50, led by a dominant adult male or silverback who holds his position for years. This is a compound complex sentence. First, we have the coordinating conjunction but, which is used to connect two independent clauses, and later the relative pronoun who, which is used to introduce relative clauses.
The second text we are going to analyze is the tale of the three little pigs. The genre is narrative and the function is to entertain and instruct through dealing with unusual and unexpected development of events.
The first component of the scaffolding of a narrative text is the orientation, which has to do with the following questions. Who is in the story? That is, the characters that participate in the story. Mother Pig, the three little pigs, and the main antagonist, the big bad wolf. When it is happening, we don't know exactly, but the expression once upon a time indicates that this story took place in a distant past. Where it is happening? Somewhere in nature, we don't know exactly, but we suppose that this story took place in a farm or in a forest. And finally, what is going on? Piglets split up to build their houses with different materials.
The second component of the scaffolding is the complication. This is something that will begin a chain of events. These events will affect one or more characters. The complication is the trigger. In this case, will be the wolf appearing in the story and his attempt to eat the pigs.
The third element of the narrative scaffolding is the sequence of events. This refers to how the characters react to the complication, their feelings and actions. Events can be chronological or with flashbacks. Audience may be given narrator's perspective.
The resolution refers to the way the complication is sorted out. In the Three Little Pigs, the problem is solved at the end of the text when the big bad wolf falls into the trap of the little pigs.
The coda is the moral or message to be learned from the story. In the Three Little Pigs, the coda is that patience and hard effort pay off in the end.
Unlike descriptive text, narrative texts are written in past tense. This story is mostly written using past simple, but there is also a sentence that uses past perfect. In this piece of the story, the verb in past simple are highlighted in yellow and the verb in past perfect are highlighted in blue.
A second grammatical feature of narrative text is the use of action verbs. Action verbs describe what characters do, driving the plot forward. In our chosen story, some examples of action verbs are when Mother Pig sent out her 3 little pigs out into the world, when each one of the 3 little pigs built their house using different types of materials, and when the big bad wolf huffed and puffed to blow down the houses of the little pigs.
Another grammatical feature on this type of text is the use of dialogues to show interactions between characters. For example, let's take a look at the dialogue between the big bad wolf and the 3 little pigs. Big bad wolf, little pig, let me in, let me in. Little pig, no, 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 not by the hairs of my chin, chin, chin. Big bad wolf, then I'll hoof and I'll poof and I will blow your house down.
Finally, narrative texts are also characterized by the point of view of the narrator. Some narrative texts are written in first person, that is, the narrator is the protagonist himself. However, as it's the case with most children's fairy tales, the 3 little pigs is written in third person. This perspective is clear from the very beginning, when the narrator starts the story by saying, "Once upon a time."
Now we are going to talk about reference rules. Repetition. In this case, we can see repetition of dialogues. Now we can see pronominalization, which refers to the process of replacing nouns or noun phrase with pronouns in a sentence to avoid repetition. In this case, we can see the use of them and he to refer to the pigs.
A third recurrence rule found in this story is definitivization. This occurs when a noun initially introduced using an indefinite article later appears along a definite article. In the 3 little pigs, for example, the big bad wolf is introduced as a wolf that happened to pass by the lane where the 3 little pigs lived. However, in the following sentences, he's referred to as the wolf. Finally, a fourth recurrence rule identified in this text is lexical substitution. In one of the last paragraphs, the little pig is later on referred to as the little piggy. One of the thematic progression patterns that we can identify in this story is called split rhyme progression. In the first sentence, the theme is Mother Pig, and the rhyme refers to the 3 little pigs. This rhyme is split into the themes of the following 3 sentences. Each one of them is about a different little pig.
Since this is a story for small children, the connectors used to link different sentences are simple coordinating conjunctions like and, but, and so.